Hi, it's Ashleigh from Sweet Dreams Bake Shop, and today I'm so excited because we are going to be making Mickey Beignets, which is my favorite treat from Disneyland. And I was so excited when the Disney parks came out with this recipe, but I had so many issues with the yeast portion of this recipe that I almost didn't make them. But this makes for a great Fail Friday episode. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm getting together all those other ingredients that are in the recipe and I'm letting that yeast get nice and puffy. And no puffy yeast here. But I tried again and still no puffy yeast. But for some reason I thought, oh, maybe I'll just push through and it'll be fine. Now, I have experienced this problem in past, and it's never worked out for me, so I have no idea why I continued on with the recipe. I will put the link to the original recipe down below, and I will also tell you what you need to fix about the recipe in order for this to go off without a hitch. Had my yeast foamed up like it was supposed to, then I think all of these steps that I did were perfectly fine. As with all recipes that contain yeast, there's a lot of waiting and resting time with this dough. Even at this point though, after letting it rest, I could tell it wasn't going to work out because it was really heavy. The dough is supposed to double in size, or at least puff up a little bit, but these still look like sugar cookies, so I knew it wasn't going to work. Place them in the fryer and nope. These were almost like really bad pretzels. The texture was just completely off and I could tell that the dough had not risen at all. But that's all right, I know exactly what to do with them. Don't be too sad though, this is just the life of a baker. So I went out and I bought a whole bunch of different yeast. I think the problem here is that it says half a teaspoon of dry active yeast. But it says right here that I need to put a 1/4 cup of water with the whole package of yeast, which is a lot more than a half teaspoon. It also says to add that little bit of sugar as well, which I did do in the original recipe because I know that in order to feed the yeast, we need to put a little bit of sugar with it. I did not want to take any more chances, so I even got out my thermometer to make sure that the water was the right temperature. I thought that stirring in the yeast and the sugar is where I went wrong in the first place on that very first trial, but I did it again without any stirring and it still didn't work. Let's see if it works this time. I'm also doing another test where I'm following the recipe again and using that half teaspoon, but I measured the water temperature super carefully. And ta-da! Not working. There we go. So I guess you just have to forget what Disney Park says and look at the yeast package. This is not the first recipe I've tried where something went off with the yeast portion of the recipe. So I think what I've learned from this experiment and past experiments is that you really just need to follow the directions on the back of the yeast package, no matter what your recipe says. I think this is because there's so many different types of yeast out there. I bought 2 different types of yeast and they both said different things on the back of each package. I continued following the directions as listed on the original recipe and everything seemed to go according to plan. One thing I might change though is not using the dough hook. I think I would just kind of knead by hand because then you get a little bit more control with it and you don't overmix. When reincorporating the leftover dough, things do get a little bit elasticy. The way that you combat that is you just need to let the dough rest again before re-rolling. Even though the dough looks exactly the same as it did the first time around, it smelled and felt very different. I could actually smell the yeast when I walked into the room and I saw that it had all puffed up. Some of you might be wondering why I am deep frying in a wok, and the reason actually is because I find I use less oil when I do it this way, since the curve of the pan allows me to fill it up higher but use less. The recipe says 2 to 3 minutes, but honestly this happened a lot faster. Another thing that's different this time around is that the Mickey heads are actually floating. Before, it just kind of sunk to the bottom. Whenever you are deep frying something, make sure that you have a deep frying station ready, so you've got your pan ready to go and you're using different tongs or chopsticks to put whatever it is that you're frying inside of your fryer. The smell is absolutely divine, and these are actually super light feeling. Now, it doesn't look anything like the beignets that they serve at Disneyland, but I'm going to try my best here. They serve them in a brown paper bag, so I'm just placing the warm beignets right in there, and then I'm going to be very generous with my powdered sugar, just like they are in the parks. If you don't know where they are in the parks, it's right at the mint julep bar. Give it a really good shake, and then I'm going to eat them and pretend I'm lining up for the Haunted Mansion. They're not quite as light and airy as the Mickey beignets, but they are fantastic, really delicious. Coating these in the icing sugar completely is a definite must. Who knew that fixing this week's Fail Friday would be as easy as just following the directions on a package? Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can be part of this Sweetie fam. Right now, I'm uploading daily, so make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when I upload. Also, be sure to comment, request, or ask a question. I love hearing from you guys. Fail Friday happens every week, so please make sure to send me your fails, and your baking fail could be fixed by next Friday. Bye!